What's going on, guys? So before we start this episode, we wanted to let you know that there are spoilers aplenty on this episode.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen it, shut this off, go watch it, and then come back and watch this and see what you think. See if you agree with me or with Ken.
So make sure you guys are watching The Mist. If you haven't seen it, stream it on any streaming services, buy it, support film, and hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Welcome back to SledgeHammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge.
And I'm Ashley Sledge.
And today's episode of Didn't See That Coming is on the movie The Mist. Now, The Mist is a movie that we both have very strong opinions about.
Yep.
Both very different opinions. So the movie actually starts with a big storm.
Yes.
It takes place on the East Coast, and it causes a lot of damage to the whole town, especially David and Brent. They are neighbors. David goes out to assess the damage. A tree went through his window. It also broke his boathouse.
Yes.
So the tree that fell on his boathouse is actually his neighbor Brent's. So he goes over to talk to Brent to exchange insurance information. This is when we find out that these two kind of have a
feud going on?
Yeah, Brent had sued David in the past, so now they're trying to get everything figured out. When he walks over there, David realizes that Brent's car had also been destroyed.
Yeah.
So he offers him a ride into town.
Because it was a nice car, and he felt pretty bad about it.
It was a very nice car. So when they go into town, they go to the grocery store. You find out that none of the radios in town are working. None of the cell phones are working. This is where we kind of meet the rest of the cast. It gets a little bit slow here at points, but obviously there's a lot of introductions. You see the mist start to come in, and that is where Dan runs in, screaming about there's something in the mist, there's something in the mist. This is kind of actually gets a little bit skeptical here. Some people don't believe him. Some people do believe him. There's kids in the grocery store that are scared. They start to lock up, and Melissa McBride's character, who is credited as woman with children.
Yeah, she doesn't even have a name.
Yeah. She starts asking, will somebody see a woman home? I got to get home to my kids. And people won't even make eye contact with her.
No. No, she's looking around the room, and no one will even look at her. No one wants to help her because no one knows what's in the mist, really. And
this is actually in a movie full of heartbreak. This is a heartbreaking scene because you watch this parent that wants so badly to get to her children, so she leaves and she faces the mist, and that's the last we see of her for now. David ends up going to the back room because he hears a weird noise. We find out the generator's going down. This is where we really start to meet Ollie, who both of us absolutely love.
Yeah.
And then Jim goes back there with David as well. As much as we love Ollie, that's how much we dislike Jim. So they go back there, and there's another guy named Norm, who is a young cashier, and then Myron, who's another mechanic with Jim. Now, Norm offers to go outside to unclog the generator up on top where it's clogged up. That's why it's making the noise and it's smoking.
Yeah, and David doesn't want him to. He's a young kid, and he's just saying, no, that's probably not a good idea. But he is a kid, and he's like, oh, I'm not a pussy.
Yeah, and Jim and Myron are kind of pushing this issue too.
Yeah.
Like, stop being such a bitch, stop being such a pussy, let the kid go.
They wouldn't go out there, but they would send the kid out there.
So the door starts to open. Norm gets close to the door, and this big tentacle comes in and grabs him and starts to pull him. Well, now big badass Jim and Myron freeze in fear.
Oh, yeah, no one helps him except for
David.
Yeah.
Jumps on him, and then Ollie, the super badass, ends up breaking the fire glass. He gets the axe, but it's too late at this point. Unfortunately, we see Norm under the door, tears in his eyes. Part of his neck's been ripped out. Part of his leg's been ripped off. He's reaching out, and he just gets pulled into the mist. Very heartbreaking scene. This is also where David ends up punching Jim out at this point. You know, you got that kid killed. This is your fault that kid is dead. And now, at this point of the movie, we kind of get into, we need to start setting up some boundaries.
Right.
This is where boundaries need to be set up. So now this is where our group goes back out, and they try to get some recruits to help them out here.
Yeah. So they grab Brent, and they try to tell him what they just seen and what happened, and he's like, okay, come on now, guys. This did not happen. You guys are trying to trick me because David doesn't like me. And
because I sued him.
Yeah, because he's, yes.
So now you got Mrs. Carmody, you kind of got three factions now. Mrs. Carmody's people that are saying this is an act of God, this is God's will because of abortions and the way we treat the earth and us messing with things.
Yeah. Which not a lot of people are following her at
Not
this
right
point,
now.
but she does. She's getting people.
And she's reading from the book of Revelations. And then you have Brent's group, which is all a bunch of skeptics that are like, there's no proof as to what we're seeing here. And then you have our group, which is like just trying to figure out stuff with David and his son Billy and Amanda. So now Brent and his group decide that they're going to go.
Yeah. They've had enough of it. They're going to figure it out on their own.
Well, one of the guys ties a rope around himself so that way they can see how far he gets because he's just trying to go out. He's not leaving with Brent in the group. He's going out to get a shotgun from a truck.
Right.
Well, once he gets out there, the rope cuts slack, then it goes flying in the air, and it starts burning their hands when they're trying to bring it back.
Yeah, and then it gets thrown back in, and it's all bloody, and only half of him returned.
Only the lower half of him comes back. So now they really know we're in for some deep shit here. Well, night comes, and now everybody has seen it, so they're starting to board up the windows. And also, I want to point out at this point, we never see Brent and his people again.
No.
So we don't know if they made it or not.
But
I'm going to assume they did not.
No.
But crazier things have happened, which we'll talk about here in a little bit.
Yes, that is very true.
So the monsters come back at night. They're boarding up, and you see these locusts start landing on the window, and they're big locusts.
Creepy looking.
And then these big pterodactyl things, I call them aerodactyls because I like Pokemon. The aerodactyls start eating them and smashing up against the window. Well, they break the window and they get in. At this point, Sally, a young cashier, she gets stung in the neck by one of the locusts. And she swells up. She dies pretty quickly, but it looks to be very, very painful.
Oh, yeah, it looks horrible. But the makeup that they did, was amazing.
The effects were really, really good.
And then one of the locusts also lands on Mrs. Carmody, and she just stays still and says a little prayer, and it doesn't bite her. And so I think that is when people start to think maybe she's not crazy.
She is a vessel from God.
Yeah, she's a vessel, and she starts to get a lot more people believing in her at that point.
Well, now at this point, we have our main character, David. He lights a mop on fire, and he sets one of the pterodactyls on fire and ends up beating it to death with the mop. So another guy, Joe, tries to do the same thing. Well, when he starts running, he kicks over the fuel, and he lights himself on fire in a great fire stunt, but not a great turnout for Joe.
No, he's completely burned from head to toe.
And he's in a lot of pain. He's begging him to give him the gun so he can shoot himself. Instead of doing that, our group decides to go over to the pharmacy.
Yeah, they need to get him some painkillers and some antibiotics before shock sets in from the fire.
And there's David, there's Dan, there's Irene, there's Amanda, there's Jim, the dickhead mechanic. Well, they get over to the pharmacy, and we see a military police officer that's covered in spider webs.
Yeah.
He's crying and he's freaking out. He's saying, this is my fault. This is our fault. We did this. That's when spiders start to rip out of his face.
Yeah, and then he falls over and he just explodes with all these creepy looking spiders that spit this acid web at you.
And one of the guys actually gets acid on his leg.
Yeah, and the whole skin of his leg just falls right off.
And it's either Mike or Bobby. Mike or Bobby, both of them, they both die in this scene. One gets eaten by the big spider. The other gets the acid wrapped around his leg, and he ends up bleeding out. And our group makes it back after we find out that Irene is amazing with bug spray and a lighter.
Yeah.
Ollie, obviously, is our sharpshooter.
Yeah.
And then we have Dan, who has a sharpened stick and is just stabbing the big spiders. They get back over, and this is where David takes Jessup, who is a member of the military, to the back to figure out what's going on. When they get back there, you see the other two military men have hung themselves, or hanged themselves, however you want to say it. So we know it's deep shit now.
Right, yeah. Well, we know that it's military made, and it really is their fault.
Well, and now he doesn't really want to say much. Well, Jim overhears all this, and he takes him out and throws him to Mrs. Carmody and is like, he did this, they did this, and he's crying, and he's begging. He's just a kid, and he's telling them, I'm local. You guys know me.
Right.
Well, they start revolting out of fear. He gets stabbed a couple times in the stomach.
Yeah.
They beat him pretty bad. They carry him to the door, and they throw him out as a sacrifice to the creatures in the mist.
And he puts his bloody little handprint on the window.
And you hear him say, please.
Yeah.
And then the monster just takes him away.
You feel for him.
You really do feel for him. It's really sad.
And this is really where you see how big of a monster Mrs. Carmody is. You know, she has all these followers now, and she's really maybe more scarier than the actual monsters themselves.
And this is where our main character, David, who I want to remind you, Thomas Jane, who plays David, did such a great job in this film.
He's very good, yes.
I think that he absolutely nailed this role, and I don't think I could have had anybody else play this role and do it as good as him. He gets his group together and tells them, we got to get out of here. Well, when they try to leave, Mrs. Carmody starts directing traffic and telling people, get that little boy.
Yeah, she's screaming, grab his son.
Yeah, they want
sacrifice his son.
They want blood sacrifice from his 8-year-old Billy, and she's also wanting Amanda. She's saying, grab the whore too.
Yeah.
And they want to kill them as a blood sacrifice to God. All of a sudden, boom, Mrs. Carmody is shot in the stomach, and then Ollie walks up and shoots her in the head, a double tap to make sure that she's done, and delivers one of the darkest and funniest lines in the whole movie.
I killed her. Thank you, Ollie. I wouldn't have shot her, Dave. Not if there'd been any other way.
That's why I said thank you.
Well, now, David and his group decide it's time to leave. Myron gets killed by a spider right as they get outside. Ollie makes it to the car first. And
Our boy Ollie makes it.
He's so proud of himself. He's opening the door for everybody, and he turns around and he sees the look of fear on everybody's face. That's when the big monster grabs him and kills our little Ollie.
Poor Ollie.
Yeah. He's one of those guys that you really root for.
Yeah, because he's like kind of nerdy, but he's super sweet and like, you know.
Such a badass.
Yeah, and he's a badass. And
yeah, so now you got the big spider that's out there. David ends up grabbing the gun from the hood that Ollie had dropped, and they start to drive off. Their goal is to drive south until they get rid of the mist. The first thing they do is they drive to David's house, and unfortunately, we see his wife Stephanie is dead. She's in a spider web outside of the house. Another heartbreaking scene. Well, they run out of gas, and he's sitting there, and they're all looking at each other and what to do, and here's where he pulls the gun out, and he has four bullets left. You can hear a lot of noise coming in the mist. This is where David decides he's going to mercy kill everybody in the car. There's him, Irene, Amanda, Billy, and Dan. His son Billy wakes up and looks at him. This is where we cut to the outside of the car.
Yeah, and then
we
you
see
hear
four gunshots.
Yeah.
And you see just the absolute devastation on his face, David's face.
Yeah.
And he even is, taking
hear
the
it.
gun and trying to shoot himself, knowing there's no bullets. This is where he gets out of the car, and he's just screaming for the monsters to come and get him.
Take me.
Through the mist, you see a tank.
And the mist is kind of like just
dissipating. And you see the flamethrower going, and they're killing the monsters. And in a callback to the beginning, you see survivors that are coming on a truck.
Yes.
And you see Melissa McBride
With their 2 children.
with her kids on there.
Just looking at him like, you should have helped me.
Yeah. So the movie ends with this heartbreaking scene. So when the movie ended with that, and for those of you that don't know, this is a Stephen King novel. The novel does not end like this. The novel ends with them pulling into a bed and breakfast, I believe, and Howard Johnson's.
Yeah.
And they just bunker down, and that's where the book ends. Ashley and I have been together for 15 years. We have 3 kids, and we have very different opinions on the ending of this movie. I completely agree with David. If it came to it, and I think that the monsters are surrounding us, and I have the bullets, I'm going to take out my family. I'm going to mercy kill them to make sure they don't have to feel acid around them. They don't have to feel spiders invading their body. They don't have to feel themselves getting ripped apart. I'll take that pain for them. But you have a different view on this.
Yeah. So I just know that I could never shoot my kids. And I just feel like I would have never even left the store. Like, even though it was crazy there, I think that I would have.
I just think if you were in the situation and someone was trying to sacrifice one of our kids, a blood sacrifice, I think that it would have.
I think that I could handle humans more than I could the monsters.
Fair. So we want to know from you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure you're leaving the comments down here. Let us know who you agree with. Would you have killed your kids or would you not have killed your kids? Which is a sentence I never ever thought that I would say. But we would love to hear from you guys. We would love to know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I'm Ken Sledge.
And I'm Ashley Sledge.
Keep talking horror. Stay what you are. And we'll see you guys soon.